Let's begin by creating a new message post endpoint in Node. So let's open up our server.js. Then let's copy our app.get on line 11 through line 13. And we'll paste it below. Next, let's change the get to a post. Then, since we're not responding with the message list, instead of using response.send on line 16, we'll use response.send status. And we'll pass in 200 for 200 OK. This will let the client know that everything went well. Finally, as a test, above our response.send status, we'll use a console.log to display the request.body to see what data we get in our body. In order to try this, we can't easily send a post request with the browser, so we'll use an app called Postman. You can get Postman from the Chrome App Store or as a standalone app for Windows or Mac. Once Postman starts, let's update the URL with our post endpoint of localhost 3000/messages. Then in the dropdown on the left, instead of using a get action, we'll specify a post action. Then finally, we can go to the body tab and select raw. And then in the dropdown, instead of text, we'll select JSON. In here, we can create our message object. It will have our name property, and we'll also need the message property. Notice that the properties and values must both have double quotes for it to be valid raw JSON that we can send with Postman. Now let's hit send, and we got back 200 OK. So let's go to our terminal. So I'll go to View, then Integrated Terminal. And the last message we see in our terminal should be the console log from line 16. But it's currently undefined. That's because Express has no built-in support to parse the body. So let's install the package that will do that, called body-parser. So I'll open up a new terminal, and we'll use npm install-s body-parser. Then let's require it in at the top. So above our var app on line 2, I'll use var body parser equals require body-parser. Then we will set it up as middleware with app.use. So below our existing app.use, we'll add another, and we'll pass in body-parser.json. This lets body-parser know that we expect JSON to be coming in with our HTTP requests. So let's open up our terminal once again, and I'll close the new terminal so we can see our nodemon. Then let's go back to Postman, and before we hit send, I'll fix a quick typo in the message property. Instead of comma, we'll use a colon to specify the value from Postman for our message property. Now let's go ahead and hit send again. And if we get back a 200 OK, let's check our terminal. And we can now see the message object with the name and message property. Now that we're getting our message, let's add the new message we got to our messages array. We will be doing that by using messages.push and pass in the request body which contains the message object. So on line 18, instead of the console log, we'll use messages.push with the request.body. Let's save that, and then let's give it another try from Postman. If we get a 200 OK, let's go to our web app and refresh. And you can see that we're getting our Postman message. The final thing that we need to do is send the post request not from Postman, but from our browser app. Let's go back to our HTML file. Let's scroll down to our getMessages function. We'll copy it from line 32 to line 36 and post it below. Then let's rename it to post message. and change it from a .get to .post. Then we'll pass along the message object as the second argument, and we'll get that message object as a parameter. So we'll add that to the post messages function, and then supply it as the second parameter to our post call. Then let's modify our click event on our send button so that it calls post messages instead of just adding a placeholder message. So I'll take out what we have on line 23. Then I'll create the variable called message and set it to an empty object for now. Then let's call post messages. And actually, I'll rename this function on line 39 to post message, and then I'll pass in our message object. It's currently empty, so we'll need to populate it. That means we'll need access to the name and message inputs in our HTML. And so in order to have access to those inputs, we need to create IDs like we did before. So we'll begin with our input on line 12, and we'll set an ID of name. Then we'll need another input for message. So let's copy line 12 and 11 and paste it below. We'll change the placeholder to message, and we'll want it to be a multi-line input. So instead of using input tags, we'll use text area. And then we'll add the closing tag at the end. Then let's change the ID to message. Now we have IDs for both our name and our message that we can then set in our message object. So let's begin populating that object. We'll start with the name property and set it to the value of our input, which we'll access with jQuery with .val. Then we'll do the same for the message property. Then finally, let's finish modifying our post message function on line 41. We won't need a callback, so let's take that out. Then let's save that. Then let's give it a try in our web page. We'll put in a name and a message. Then let's hit send and let's refresh. We can see that both the name and message are undefined, not exactly what we expected. Let's try to debug why this is happening. Let's go back to our backend, and in our post messages endpoint, let's add a console log again with request.body. Let's save this and try posting again. We can see that I've posted twice and I have two empty objects twice. That's because what comes in from our browser is URL encoded, and so we must set up body parser to support that. So let's go up to where we set up body parser, and then we'll add another line with app.use. We'll use body parser again, .url encoded, and then we'll specify extended to be false. Let's save that. Then let's get rid of the console.log on line 19 and give it a try after saving. We'll go back to our app, we'll hit send, then let's refresh. And we can see we're getting the expected values. So our message app works both front-end and back-end. If we hosted this now, we would be able to have a chat with a friend and simulate a chat between two clients. So I'll copy the URL, open up a new tab, and then let's post a message from our second client. And then let's do the same from the first. And then refresh on the second. We can see it's working, but we've noticed somewhat of an issue, that we have no idea when a new message comes in. So we have to keep hitting refresh. We could make this automatic with a front-end JavaScript function, which will keep doing an HTTP GET on a timer. But there's a better way. Let's take a look at socket.io next.